Hey everyone, it's Chris here from Viral Gorilla, and I wanted to talk about the whole Rotten Tomatoes, Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones thing. Well, they've kept him to a 0% on the tomato meter by having 5 of their approved critics give little snippets about what's going on his show, and it's all bad reviews, obviously, from this site. But what is interesting is something that only came out a few days ago. Dark Crystal has an audience score of 92, um, with a critic rating of 46, 89%, user ratings 147, 92%. Now, if we go back to Dave Chappelle, the audience score is not yet available because you can't talk about it. It's still got coming soon release date on it, which it was August 26th. As we said, Dark Crystal came out August 30th, and you can comment on that. So there's a sort of censorship going on here by Rotten Tomatoes on the conversation of this Netflix special. Yes, it was a provocative special, but I'm definitely sure that there's people here that would love to leave a score, whether it's positive or negative, and talk about both sides of the argument. But Rotten Tomatoes has failed us again. I mean, if they haven't or didn't lose all credibility with Brie Larson and the Captain Marvel thing, then they've lost all credibility now with this Dave Chappelle Sticks and Stones censorship. And that's basically what it is. It's censorship on free speech. So make no mistake about it. That's what's going on here. A bit of free speech censorship. You can watch this, but you can't watch this. We're going to keep this down. I mean, it's come out this week in streaming, DVD and streaming, and it's not there. So, you can go to view all, and it's basically does not show up. So, yeah, it's not there. It's not showing up. They've kept it well down with its 0%, kicked it in the guts while it's down. But Dave Chappelle is obviously not down. He's the highest paid comedian in the world, and that's made available. That's as to these 5 Netflix specials that he's done. He's the highest paid comedian in the world, right up there with Kevin Hart. And so there's this whole censorship of what we can and can't say, and starting to creep through and sort of into everyday culture. And there's nothing here saying yes, it was you should watch this. It's all negative, negative, negative. So it's like dropping in on a rascally uncle who doesn't know or doesn't care how much he's disappointing you. Sticks and Stones is designed to generate inflammatory coverage. It's a symbiotic cycle with no end in sight, and it's become the last thing a beloved provocateur should ever want to be: predictable. Sticks and Stones is terrible, and Dave Chappelle can only blame himself for that. Sticks and Stones isn't necessarily a failure. It just feels like Chappelle's presenting half-formed material with few jokes that truly hit hard and stand out. I mean, the set mostly misses the mark, and what is the mark? The truth? Chappelle remains one of the most vital and certainly among the most daring of stand-ups. His latest hour is a setback. Well, I wouldn't really call it a setback, Kyle. What I would call it is provocative, and Dave sort of has always had this style where he talks about the fabric of society, like even going back to the Chappelle show. I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle. I always have and always will be. And even then, the idea of the Chappelle show was to bring people together through comedy. And when you look at the Netflix special, when you see when the cameras turn around on the audience, you can see a big mix of people from all races and genders in the audience, enjoying themselves and having good laughs. And yes, going, ooh, when he says something a bit controversial. But that's the sort of style he is. And as he says himself, you know what you came here for. You clicked on my head. You know what you're getting. You bought the ticket. Like, what did you think you were gonna see? You're getting a Dave Chappelle show. So it's much in the same. It's like getting a Jim Jeffries show and stuff like that. I mean, if you put this sort of stuff just down and read it out word for word verbatim, yeah, it doesn't read that well. But when you watch the show, it's it's a good show. And Dave Chappelle has this style where he lets you sort of think after you've had the laugh. You think after you've had the laugh. And I mean, this is sort of a weird way of censoring people's conversation on the topic of Dave Chappelle Sticks and Stones, keeping him to 0%. I mean, we can go ahead and sort of refresh it, and yeah, still at 0%. So they're not going to let us talk about this show, um, and that's a weird thing to do by a site that used to be so big on audience reviews and stuff like that. I mean, this is some of the reason why people like Jerry Seinfeld won't do comedy anymore, because they go out, and if you say something, you offend one people, hundreds of people, thousands of people, all of a sudden you're getting brought down and stuff like that, you know. But it's not like he went out and gave a shock jock set. It's not like he just went out and started shouting racist and homophobic remarks. There was a story to each one, and you know, that's the comedy style I like, is that long story, like Eddie Murphy, Jim Jeffries, Dave Chappelle. I love that style of when comedians tell a story. There's this new wave of comedians that tell these short one-liner jokes, and I watch these comedy specials and comedy galas, and I you know, I watch this. They maybe show 12 comedians. I laugh at about 3 or 4, you know, like, and actually enjoy about 3 or 4. And some of them do come out and sort of like just do shock stuff, just for the sake of doing shock stuff. But the whole thing about comedy is to talk about it from a personal perspective and what you've lived through. And most comedians do that, and this is what Dave Chappelle is doing. Like, you know, he's talking about growing up poor, talking about you know, what sort of censorship he had to deal with at Chappelle's show, what words he could and couldn't say, and it was weird what words he could say and what words he couldn't say. And he tells it in a very funny way. He even talks about like suicide and stuff like that, and talks about it in a very thought-provoking and weird way. But it is funny. Like, the topics are, you know, they're taboo subjects. They're taboo subjects when he talks about Michael Jackson and stuff like that. It's taboo subjects, but it's, at the end of it, you think, man, like, you know, thought-provoking. Did he do it? Didn't he do it? You know, and he's you know, he calls himself, he says, I'm what known as a victim blamer. Well, that's what people are calling him, but that's sort of not what he's doing. He's sort of saying, this is, you know, he's shining a mirror onto the current culture. And that's what comedians have done through the ages. They've always shined a mirror onto society and the fabric of society. And if there's going to be this sort of type of censorship, you're going to wonder what they're going to censor next. You know, are they going to censor what sort of music we can listen to? Like, are we not going to be able to listen to rap music or death metal anymore, or something like that? Something weird where they say, no, you can listen to this band, but you can't listen to this band. Well, this is what Rotten Tomatoes is basically doing. They're saying you can listen to this comedian, but you can't listen to this comedian, and certainly don't listen to Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones, because, you know, it's not fit for public consumption. I mean, it's not as if Dave went and stood in the middle of a town square and started just yelling racist and homophobic remarks, which is what they want you to have you believe in most of the reviews I've seen online about this. You know, yes, it's shocking. Yes, it's provocative, but at the same time, it's funny and it's thought-provoking, you know. As I say, if Rotten Tomatoes didn't lose all credibility with their Brie Larson censorship and Captain Marvel censorship, then they've definitely lost all credibility with Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones censorship. But what are your thoughts? Let me know. Give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. And leave us a comment. Like, I'd love to interact with a few people in the comment section about this Netflix special, because I am a big Dave Chappelle fan, and You know, I want to know what you think. Do you think Dave's gone too far with his latest Netflix special, or do you think he's just pushing the boundaries as all comedians have done, you know, over the past, you know, 50 years, pushing the boundaries of comedy, pushing what the line between what's funny and what isn't. Yeah, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, give us a share, and tell your friends about the channel. Thanks for watching.